What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at The Fan, directed by Tony Scott, starring Robert De Niro and Wesley Snipes. The Fan tells the story of Gil Renard, who is an obsessed fan of baseball, particularly that of the San Francisco Giants, and he particular has a obsession with the player Bobby Rayburn. And this movie pretty much details what an obsessed fan would do to please someone that they idolize, to the point where they would do dastardly and heinous things. So yeah, that's pretty much the overall basic plot line of The Fan. Let's talk about it. I like The Fan. I think this is one of Robert De Niro's most underappreciated movies. I remember watching this movie in 1996. I liked it a lot then, and I like it a lot now. Now, is this a perfect movie? No, it's not. Is this a movie that you can watch and not be bored with? Absolutely. I think this movie is engrossing enough to keep your attention, and it's anchored by two really strong performances in Robert De Niro and Wesley Snipes. This movie is built off the backs of De Niro and Snipes, and if these two did not work in the roles that they were in, nor have the on-screen chemistry that I think they had, then this movie would have fell apart completely. Robert De Niro, as the obsessed fan Gil Renard, puts on a very creepy, skin-crawling performance. I mean, when we first see Gil, there's nothing really wrong with him. But as the movie progresses, we see inside his head, and just how obsessed he is with the game of baseball, and just how obsessed he is with the Bobby Rayburn character, to the point where it's unhealthy. And this obsession, because of his obsession, we see how his life pretty much crumbles all around him. Like his wife hates him, his job lets him go, the relationship with his little son is fractured. And De Niro plays the descent into madness really, really, really well. On the flip side, you got the Wesley Snipes character of Bobby Rayburn. Now, when we first see Bobby Rayburn, he just got signed to the San Francisco Giants. He's the $40 million kid, and he's got his own thing. He has to pretty much prove why he is worth that price range. And at first, he does not. The Rayburn character goes into a slump because he's dealing with his own issues. The issue is that he's in a conflict with a fellow teammate named Juan Primo, played by Benicio del Toro, because he wants the number 11, because the number 11 is very sacred to the Rayburn character, which eventually leads to a scuffle between the two. Now, being that Gil is a diehard fan of the game and a diehard fan of Rayburn, Gil actually kills Primo so that Rayburn can get the number 11. And this is where this movie really shows the extent that these just die-hard, just mentally unbalanced fans can go for people that they idolize and for a sport that they like. And I think that Tony Scott did a good job at portraying that without condemning fans in general. Like he focused on the obsession that some fans could have towards a popular figure, and there have been many stories in real life about fans, taking a particular liking to a certain celebrity to the point where they would stalk their lives and know everything about them. And De Niro plays that role, like I said, very, very well. I mean, it gets to the point where he's spying on Rayburn, on Rayburn's own beach house, and it gets to a point where he saves Rayburn's son and gets into his house, and that's where you really see the obsession and the glee in the sick glee in his eye that he's in the place where he wants to be in. And like I said, I can't praise De Niro enough in this movie. I think he was really, really good. Now, this movie also has some, side characters and subplots that I didn't really care for and don't really think go anywhere in the long run. Like the whole thing of De Niro's wife getting a restraining order against him. Honestly, truthfully, I would have already had that be a problem, but not have the movie built up to that. To be honest with you, I would have I mean, the movie already teases that the wife and De Niro's character don't have much of a relationship. So, I would have already had that be something at the beginning of this movie, where De Niro's character would try and sneak time with his son, already knowing he has a restraining order, instead of leading up to him getting the restraining order. I think that was like unnecessary filler and didn't really need to happen. There's this subplot with a radio host that doesn't really need to be there, to be honest with you. Doesn't really add much to me personally. I think John Leguizamo as Rayburn's agent. I thought Leguizamo was funny in this role, though. Again, I don't think his character really adds much to the overall story. And to be honest with you, a lot of these side plots and supporting actor and supporting cast doesn't really, they kind of get overshadowed because De Niro and Snipes are pretty much, they taken up the entire thing. Why not? It's their movie. but they don't really get that. I mean, some of them do get some shine, but not enough. And like I said, the whole subplot with De Niro's family the whole thing of De Niro's family pretty much giving a restraining order against him. I would not have had that take up any screen time, to be honest with you. I would have dedicated more time to getting more into Gil's psyche and finding out why he has an obsession with the game. I mean, the movie teases at it, drops some hints here and there. No, he was a little leaguer. He was friends with this guy named Coop, who we actually see near the end of the movie after De Niro kidnaps uh, Ray's Bobby's son Sean. They go visit Coop, who's played by the late great Charlie Callahan, and that's a very intense scene too. I mean, I like it, well directed. That's another thing with this movie. I think this movie is really, for the most part, really well directed. Though I think Tony Scott tries to give this movie more of a visual flair, like he does with most of his movies. Uh, Even though I do like Tony Scott is really good at doing action thrillers. He's not really he wasn't really proven at doing psychological thrillers. That's what this movie is. This movie is a psychological thriller. Not too much action in it, but I think Tony Scott tries to give it too much of a frenetic energy, where I think he should have toned that down a little bit. That's just my feeling on his direction personally. Overall, I think the direction is solid. I think the production design and cinematography is all well done. And like I said, even though I think the supporting cast isn't really all that fantastic, there's not a bad actor in this movie. And like I said, De Niro and Snipes, they pretty much own the movie and they steal the show. And it leads to a very intense final act between these two in Giant Stadium on the baseball field. Tiger Stadium, I'm sorry. Where Bobby is begging Gil to tell him where his son is. And De Niro drops these subtle little hints but doesn't do it until he's eventually gunned down by the police. Like the whole last 10 minutes of this movie is like really at the edge of your seat, nail biting. It's good stuff. Yeah. So those are just my thoughts on The Fan. Overall, I'm going to give this movie a solid 8 out of 10. I do recommend it. I do think it's an underappreciated movie. And if you have not seen The Fan in a very long time, give it a watch. I think your perspective on it might change. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The Fan. And let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like this video and subscribe, and I will check you back next time for more.